And welcome to another of my live. Guys, I know I customarily come here on Sundays, but I had something on my mind that I thought it might be important for me to share, especially with those people who have been getting all these misinformation about moving here to Canada. And this live was actually inspired by a thread of message that I had from this young lady who's interested in moving here. But before I jump into that, hi, I'm seeing some people on the live. Hi, welcome. Good evening. I think I was saying, oh, people who work from 9 to 5, it's like almost 5 o'clock. That was before 5 I had planned to do this live. And then I realized that I'm on a totally different time zone because right now it's 5:26 for me. So people who do 9 to 5, literal 9 to 5, they would have left work already, even if they were on my time zone. So today I'm not going to be talking about time zone because my brain is very compartmentalized. But sometimes when I get to talking about the time zone, it just kind of throws me off. I'm always saying Eastern time is my time, etc., etc. Anyway, that is not the point. So I wanted to do this live because someone sent me a thread of messages in my DM asking me how long the entire process takes to come to Canada. And I said, it basically is dependent on you because a lot of times we get into our own ways. And so if we don't start taking action, then we won't get the momentum that we need to keep going because, action begets action. And you have to start and keep going for you to get the things that you need to get done in a timely fashion so you can have get your profile submitted, wait until you're selected, and then that's another process. But the part that I'm going to address right now is between the time you are invited to apply for your residence and the time that you actually get your documentation. Now, prior to COVID-19, this was, let's say, up until early 2020. Once you submit your application to the government, it literally takes 6 months for you to get everything. Like, you get your confirmation of your permanent residence and you're out of there. So I'm going to use myself as an example. When I did my express entry profile, like I held on to my language test report for a good 6 months because I got my report in January. I never submitted my profile until around mid-June. And it wasn't even mid-June, it was later than mid-June because I knew based on what was happening then that the minute I submit my profile that I'm gonna be selected. So I was there dragging my feet. Hello, I said I had my language report from January. I had everything else in order that I needed at the time. And I submitted my application in June. And I will never forget because I was selected on my birthday, which was a wonderful gift in June of 2019. So I got selected and got an invitation to apply for permanent residence on June 26. Before 2019, it was until June 2018, and I know this for a fact because one of my friends, she was selected on June 25th. In 2018, she was in the last cohort that was allowed 90 days to submit all the documentation needed to the government before they start processing your file. So her cohort in 2018 June was the last cohort that got 3 months because what the government realized that people they don't put any rush on these things. And it's not to say that you're to rush, but when you give someone, and I think this law is, oh my God, what is it called? Parkinson's law. And Elon Musk explained something similar. He didn't say it was Parkinson's law, but it was basically the same thing. Like if you give yourself 3 months to get something done, you're telling your brain, oh, I have 3 months to get it done. So you drag out the process. If you had 3 weeks to do the same thing, you would, if it is that important to you, get it done within 3 weeks. So Parkinson's law said basically that the work will expand to fit the timeline that you give it. So the government realized that they were giving people 3 months to submit their documentation and people were taking forever. So they decided to reduce that timeline to 2 months, and that was since July 2018. Now, I was selected by June 23rd or thereabout. By July, 23rd or thereabout. Remember, I said I was selected June 26th. By July 23rd, I'd submitted all my documentation. And by early January, I had my confirmation for my PR, and I moved to Canada on February 4th. So let's check. Let's just say June 26th is close to July 4th. August, September, October, November, December, January, February. Within 7 months of being selected, I was in Canada because, of course, I had plans and preparation in place, and I was doing all the things that I needed to do to ensure that I was going to meet this timeline because I had prior plans. But I held on to my language test result for 6 months. So if I had submitted my language test result and things were a little different, then I probably would have been able to. Well, in all honesty, I wasn't gonna be selected that time in January because at the time I was engaged and there was a lot of things going on, and that affected my profile in terms of my points. Well, the minute that ended, my point standing changed. I knew though that had I submitted the documentation that I would have been selected. So I'm saying this to say that person who contacted me, and hi Carissa, I have other persons joining the live. Welcome. So that person who contacted me, she was told that it takes about 2 years to get your documents processed for Canada. There is no such thing. If somebody tells you that it takes 2 years, you need to question that process. If somebody tells you that it takes a year, you need to question that process because prior to COVID-19, it only took 6 months. Now with the changing tides, we're living in unprecedented times. Things are a little bit unpredictable. It takes a longer time for things to come through the snail mail. And with the shortage of labor, airplanes are being grounded. People are not going where they're supposed to go because their flights have been canceled or delayed or whatever the case is. So going forward, we can expect that, okay, there might be a lag in the time in which your documents are processed. And right now, the government has about 2.4 million profiles in backlog, and that's not just for Express Entry, because Express Entry right now has only about 250,000 applications. Most of the people applying to come to Canada are applying to come as residents, or it's through family sponsorship. When I said resident, I mean temporary resident, like visitors, through family sponsorship. If they want to be students, people who are applying for work permits, etc., etc. So because of COVID, people are working from home, things are taking a lot longer. What we've found is that the processing is not taking 6 months. And as you guys have been updated recently, either by myself or through whatever medium, you will realize that the Express Entry pooling the government had stopped the pooling since December of 2020. It just started again on July 6th. So the plan that they have in place is to get those files that are on back order, or those that are backlogged, they want to clear those up before they open the gates, basically. Proverbially speaking, before they open the gates, because they know that a lot of people want to come, and they made a promise that they would get these profiles done, and people would get their confirmation for their residence within 6 months. So if someone tells you it takes 2 years, that is not the case. If you have to pay to get a work permit, that is like a big red flag. I'm just saying this. I don't actually deal with work permit. I'm just saying you need to do your due diligence, verify the information that's coming your way, because people will hear and they will say and they'll think a lot of things. Hey sis, how are you? Hey girl, one of my friends have joined the live. Welcome. Yeah, so you have to do your due diligence. And the next thing that I want to advise you is never take advice or information from somebody who's not doing exactly what you want to do, or if they've never done it. You cannot be in your cubicle at work taking advice from somebody across the cubicle telling you it's going to take 2 years to process your document. I'm not saying that couldn't be the case, but it would have to be some real extenuating circumstances that causes that. If you know that Havali and I went to UTech and we did the same course and we have the same degree and we're basically the same age, and she submitted her profile and her documentation took 6 months, it simply means that if I do the same, then my documentation is going to take a similar time. Of course, we do not have the exact same profile because our circumstances might be different. You might be married, you might have children, you might have another certification since we left pharmacy school, whatever the case is. But the point I'm making is that you cannot take hearsay and run with it to court. You just don't do that. Like, if you want to get information, reach out to somebody who's already done it, somebody who is in a position, somebody who is an authoritarian, someone who has established himself as an authority. You can go to the Government of Canada website. Listen, nothing that you need to know isn't available to you at your fingertips. You have the phone, you have the internet, you have a computer, you have a tablet. Just go and Google it. But somebody's going to tell you that it's going to take you 2 years to get your documents processed. Then I don't know which government is processing the document, but it surely isn't the one in Canada. Hello, I have another person joining the live. Do you guys have any questions for me? Just a recap, I was just basically saying that someone said they heard it took 2 years to get their documents processed. And I'm saying prior to COVID, it was 6 months. And the plan going forward, based on the directives that has been given by the Government of Canada, is that it will take 6 months. If it takes 7 months, we can give or take. But because things happen, and that's something that we can factor in when we're thinking about our timelines. What time do we want to get there? And let it not be, and I keep reiterating this, let it not be a case that because you see somebody's highlight reel, or they seem to be doing really well, or life seems to be great for them, let that not be your driving force or your motivation for wanting to move to Canada. It has to be something that is laid on your heart. I knew I wanted to move to Canada, and it didn't matter what anybody told me. They could tell me the heavens was falling down over. I'd have to go and see it for myself. I was even told that I'm caught up in the migration frenzy, and that's fine. That's completely fine, because I don't take hearsays and I don't listen to naysayers. I only take directives from the way showers and the way makers and the doers. Don't forget the doers. If you're not actively doing, I don't care what anybody else over there is saying. I'm only seeing what's been done. And as long as it's not something that's illegal or immoral or unethical, it's perfectly fine. We can do this. But let it not be a case where because somebody seems to be doing really well, life is fantastic. Nowhere in this world life is perfect. A lot of people who have the things or doing the things that you want to do, they worked for it. Not everybody's honest, but they've worked for it. Nobody will show the burdens or the struggles. And I'm not going to tell you that, oh, I went through a lot of struggles to come to Canada, because that wasn't my story. And my story is different from yours, but our paths might be similar. So I just thought I'd share that with you all today, instead of waiting until Sunday, because maybe by Sunday I'll have something bigger and better and brighter to share with you. All right, I asked if anyone has any questions and everybody seemed to be silent. So I'm just going to end this live. So if you have questions, feel free to send them my way. And if you have doubts about anything, before you take it and run with it like it's the gospel, do your due diligence and do your research, and look it up on the Government of Canada website, because every information that you need to go forward is there. All right, so since I have no questions, I will talk to you all very soon. Bye. You know, we're just joining the live. I'm about to leave. I just said bye. I can wave to you and say bye.